So the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air has been around for over a year now, and in my time of ownership, I've been able to get a good understanding of its strengths, its weaknesses, and everything in between. So strap in and tune in to see whether or not this could be your next laptop. Hey, what's good? Prashil here with my take on the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. And to start us off, you already know, we're going to get straight into the design. Now, one thing that the Air MacBooks will always have over the Pro MacBooks are the colors available. And this M2 Air in this fantastic midnight blue color is no slouch. I think this is the best color to get despite it being a huge fingerprint magnet, because honestly, when you do wipe it down for the 20th time during the day, for that brief moment, it just looks impeccable. Now, this sleek design also contributes to that, with this laptop only being 1.2 centimeters when closed, which is pretty insane. It also weighs about 1.2 kgs, and opening it up will reveal a nice backlit keyboard that really match well with the midnight color. Now, I will say that I am a fan of the shift in design language for the newer MacBook Pros, which is why it was so great that they updated the Air lineup of MacBooks by essentially just taking a 14-inch MacBook Pro and squashing it down like a sandwich. Now, this is great, especially because of the form factor. However, it is a shame that one thing that wasn't transferred over from the Pro line of MacBooks was the port selection. Unfortunately, you don't get the display port or even an SD card slot, which is essential for the on-the-go creator. And this is one of those things that sucks, but wasn't a huge deal for me, as the 2020 M1 MacBook Pro that I owned also didn't have this. So I guess I'm going to be rocking this adapter for a little while longer. What you do get, however, is 2 USB-C ports, a headphone jack, and MagSafe, which everybody has been raving about. And I gotta say, it is nice to have. You also get a very nice premium feeling braided cable, which is color matched to the color of MacBook you pick out. Now let's talk about performance, and right off the bat, you won't be disappointed. The M2 chip performs incredibly well, especially under load. I've not had any issues with it when editing 4K footage on Premiere Pro or editing photos on Photoshop. Performance across the board has been pretty great, especially when you're just writing up emails, docs, spreadsheets, or just browsing the web and watching YouTube videos. Now, the battery life on the Air is honestly really solid. Apple rates it to last up to 18 hours on a single charge, and you could theoretically achieve something close to this if you were just browsing the web, consuming media, or just writing up a bunch of documents. However, when you do decide to stop procrastinating and fire up a bunch of Adobe programs, Blender, or even start coding, that's when this laptop starts to get a little toasty, and you will kind of notice the lack of fan. Not that overheating was an issue with my time of ownership. However, realistically, the battery life I was getting on a day-to-day basis was about 8 hours of heavy usage with programs that are CPU and GPU intensive. Alright, so the webcam on the M2 Air is actually pretty decent. You get a 1080p cam with what I think is pretty decent audio quality as well. This has honestly been great for work calls or just jumping on Microsoft Teams, Zoom calls, any really online meeting. I think you'll be sorted with the M2 MacBook Air. Speaker quality is good, if not a little lacking bass-wise, and this is just one of those things which you know is another compromise from the great speakers on the Pro lineup of MacBooks. Now, one thing you'll notice is the updated screen with a notch that you didn't get on the previous Air models. And while this does feel more modern, more in line with Apple's newer devices, unfortunately, you don't get a higher refresh rate like the Pro models. But for me, this honestly didn't feel too noticeable because I don't really game on this device. Now, all in all, I think that the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air is honestly a great device. And if you are planning on buying one, I highly recommend that you spec it out properly. Now, personally, I'd recommend starting at the base model and just bumping it up in spec in storage and RAM, so that you get 512 gigs of storage as well as 16 gigs of RAM. Now, this is what I personally think is the sweet spot for the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air, and it will give you a decent amount of future-proofing as well, as you can always get an external SSD if you need more storage, and 16 gigs of RAM on Apple's optimized software, will honestly last you a long time. Now all of this should come to about 1600 USD. Now I got mine for a little bit cheaper because I am a uni student, so I got it on education pricing along with a free pair of 2nd gen AirPods, which honestly was an awesome bonus as well. So yeah, what are my final thoughts? Well, I honestly gotta say that the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air is honestly a great device. It's suitable for on-the-go students, programmers, and graphic designers, and it genuinely does a lot at a very convenient form factor. I mean, sure, you don't get the features from the Pro line of MacBooks, but you also don't have to pay the prices of the Pro line MacBooks. And honestly, at this form factor and the power that you get out of it, I think it's a great deal and it'll serve you pretty well. Alright, so this has been it on my review of the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air, 1 year later, and it looks like we're out of time. Like and sub for more content, and yeah, till we meet again.